Adopt me, and I'll cure your kids, a small black orphan girl declared, her voice piercing the clamor of a crowded city street with unshakable certainty. The millionaire mother, a blonde woman in her 30s dressed in a crisp navy suit, let out a hollow laugh at first, her weary heart clinging to disbelief as a shield against yet another blow. But as the afternoon sun bore down, casting harsh shadows, her world stilled into an eerie silence when her twin sons, wheelchair-bound and fragile, began to stir with a flicker of life. She knelt beside them, her hands trembling yet firm as she steadied their restless forms in the shade of a storefront. Both boys, barely 7, shared fair hair and pale skin, their solemn faces mirroring each other, one in a white shirt, the other in navy, jeans sagging over legs that hadn't moved in years. Her gaze darted between them, a storm of protectiveness, exhaustion, and despair swirling in her chest. Years of wealth had bought her everything but the one miracle she craved, their health, leaving her drained by the stares, the whispered questions, and the crushing weight of her powerlessness. Then came that voice, small but resolute, pulling her from her reverie. She turned sharply to see the girl standing just steps away, perhaps 5 years old, her pink dress wrinkled beneath a worn beige coat, black leggings scuffed at the knees, and brown shoes thinned by countless miles. Her hair was tied back, revealing large, steady eyes that bore into the mother with an intensity beyond her years. "What did you say?" the mother gasped, her voice quivering with a mix of shock and incredulity. The girl lifted her chin, pointing a tiny finger with unwavering resolve. "Adopt me, and I'll cure your kids." A laugh bubbled up in the mother's throat, not from humor, but from the sheer absurdity that threatened to shatter her composure. Cure them? Her son's condition, diagnosed in their toddler years, had defied the best doctors in New York, specialists across Europe, and millions spent chasing hope. All she'd gained were polite rejections, sterile reports, and the silent pity of those who knew money had its limits. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice cracking with forced calm, "you don't know what you're saying." But the girl's gaze held firm, unyielding. "I know exactly what I'm saying." The twins, silent until now, exchanged a glance, the boy in white tugging at her sleeve with a whisper that pierced her heart, "Mama, who is she?" She forced a smile, her hand trembling as she smoothed his hair, fighting back tears. "Just a little girl. She doesn't mean any harm." Turning back, she added with a firmness masking her pain, "You shouldn't say things like that. It's not kind." The girl's lips tightened, but her eyes blazed with conviction. "I'm not being unkind. I'm telling the truth." The boy in navy leaned forward, his face lighting with fragile curiosity. "What do you mean, cure us?" The mother's heart clenched, a sharp pang of fear slicing through her. "Don't listen," she snapped, her voice brittle. "She doesn't understand." Yet the girl stepped closer, her small shoes tapping the pavement like a heartbeat. "I understand more than you think. You see sickness, limits. I see boys meant to walk." The mother's throat constricted, her body rising as she fought to reclaim control, tears stinging her eyes. "That's enough. Do you know how many years I've fought for them? The nights I've sobbed, begging for a miracle. How dare you give them hope when the best doctors failed?" Her voice broke, raw with the grief she'd buried deep. The girl didn't flinch. "Doctors can be wrong." Those words struck like a thunderbolt, echoing the desperate whispers the mother had uttered in her darkest hours. What if they were wrong? What if she'd missed a chance? Hearing it from this child, a stranger with nothing, felt like a dagger twisting in her soul. "You're just a little girl," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "You don't know the weight of promises like that." The girl's response was soft, yet it carried a weight that shook her. "I know what I feel. Take me home, give me a family, and I'll make them better." The boy in white leaned to his brother, his whisper trembling with hope. "Mama, what if she's telling the truth?" Her heart pounded, her eyes tracing their fragile legs, their small hands folded in resignation. They deserved safety, not this reckless promise from a homeless child. "And what if she's wrong?" she murmured, voice thick with dread. The girl stepped forward again, her tone steady as a lifeline. "Then you lose nothing. But if I'm right, you gain everything." The mother's eyes burned with unshed tears, a tempest of fear, anger, and a fragile spark of faith raging within her. She wanted to dismiss this child, to flee, but the twins' hopeful gazes, alight with a light she hadn't seen in years, held her captive. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, as she folded her arms, anchoring herself against the emotional tide. For the first time in years, the ground beneath her trembled, the girl's impossible words shaking her more than a lifetime of medical verdicts. That night, sleepless in her penthouse, she stared at the ceiling, the twins steady breathing a faint comfort as her mind replayed the encounter. She mocked herself. How could a woman who commanded boardrooms and billions be undone by a street child? Yet, every time she closed her eyes, she saw that pointed finger, those unyielding eyes, and her son's whispered, "What if?" By morning, the thought had taken root, impossible to ignore. Against all logic, she returned to the shelter, finding the girl waiting on a bench, pink dress and beige coat unchanged. Their eyes met, and the girl stood as if destiny had summoned her. "I knew you'd come," she said. The mother faltered, muttering, "Don't be so sure," though her voice quaked. The girl tilted her head. "You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe a little." Unable to argue, she signed the papers that day, part impulse, part defiance against her own cynicism. The girl entered their home, and the twins watched her with wide, curious eyes. At dinner, the boy in white whispered, "What do we call you?" "Whatever you want," she replied softly. The boy in navy smiled shyly. "Sister." The word hit the mother like a wave, but the girl's eyes glowed with acceptance. "Yes, sister." Weeks passed, and the house transformed. Laughter replaced silence, board games filled their room, and life stirred anew. One evening, the mother paused at the nursery door, heart in her throat, as the girl knelt by the boy in navy, her hand on his knee. "You can do it. Try," she urged. He frowned, doubtful. "Try," she insisted. Before the mother could intervene, his foot pressed the floor, his eyes widening. "Mama, I felt it," she gasped, hand flying to her mouth, tears welling at the flicker of belief in his face. A week later, his brother followed, stretching, kicking, then standing shakily. One morning, both gripped the sofa, pulling themselves up, their laughter a pure, joyous sound that buckled her knees. She sank into a chair, tears streaming, as the girl stood nearby, arms crossed with quiet confidence. "How?" the mother choked, voice raw with awe. The girl shook her head. "They did it. I just reminded them." Overwhelmed, she buried her face in her hands, the weight of lost years and spent millions crashing down, only to be lifted by this child's faith. The twins stumbled to her, arms wrapping tight, and she sobbed into their hair, meeting the girl's gaze. Now family. That night, as city lights glittered beyond the windows, she watched the trio laugh in the lamp's glow, whispering to herself, "I laughed, I doubted, but she gave me back my sons." The girl's knowing smile seemed to say, "I told you so." Miracles, she realized, sometimes arrive not in labs, but in a child's fearless hope. If this touched you, like, subscribe, and comment. Where are you watching from? Stay kind and curious.